Two people retire on the exact same day, same age, same $800,000 portfolio, same withdrawal strategy. They even experience the exact same market returns over the next 10 years. One ends up with $520,000. The other runs completely dry. Zero. Done. The difference wasn't fees. It wasn't picking the wrong stocks. And it definitely wasn't bad luck. It was something called the sequence of returns trap. And if you're a millennial with a retirement account, this is the single most dangerous thing nobody's warned you about. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it happens, and more importantly, the bucket strategy that makes your portfolio basically immune to it. Let's rewind. Meet our two retirees. We'll call them Taylor and Jordan. Both are 65 years old. Both have saved $800,000 for retirement. Both plan to withdraw $40,000 a year to live on. That's a 5% withdrawal rate, which is right in the neighborhood of what most retirement planning suggests. Here's where it gets wild. Over the next 10 years, both Taylor and Jordan experienced the exact same set of annual returns. A 37% crash, some rough years, solid growth years, the whole ride. The only difference is the order those returns come in. Taylor retires and immediately gets hit with a 37% market drop in year one, think 2008 energy, then another 15% drop in year two. By the time the recovery starts in year three, Taylor's portfolio has already been decimated. And here's the kicker. Taylor is still pulling out $40,000 a year. Every withdrawal is now eating up a much larger percentage of what's left. Let me put some numbers to this so you can feel the pain. Taylor starts with $800,000, pulls out $40,000 for living expenses, now at $760,000. Then the market drops 37%. Taylor's portfolio is now sitting at roughly $478,000. Year two. Taylor pulls out another $40,000, down to $438,000. Market drops another 15%, now sitting at $372,000. Taylor is only 2 years into retirement and has already lost more than half their life savings. Not because of bad investments, not because of panic selling, just because the market crashed early and Taylor had to keep funding their life. Now the recovery does come. Years 3 through 10 are actually decent. Taylor catches some 18%, 22%, 15% growth years. But it doesn't matter. The portfolio was too damaged in those first 2 years. The withdrawals during the crash were essentially selling shares at rock-bottom prices. By age 75, Taylor's portfolio is effectively gone. Now let's look at Jordan. Exact same returns, exact same withdrawals. But Jordan gets the good years first. Year one, the market surges 22%. Year two, up another 18%. Jordan's portfolio grows to over $1 million before ever experiencing a downturn. So when the crash finally does arrive in years 9 and 10, Jordan is pulling $40,000 from a portfolio that's worth over $1.2 million. It barely registers. By age 75, Jordan still has roughly $520,000. Same person, same strategy, same market. Just a different sequence. Now here's why this should terrify you, especially if you're a millennial. You cannot control when the market crashes. You cannot control what the S&P 500 does in the first 5 years of your retirement. But that 5-year window, specifically the first 3 to 5 years after you stop working, that window determines everything. This is called sequence of returns risk. And it's the reason two people with identical portfolios, identical withdrawal rates, and identical lifetime returns can end up in completely different financial realities. So how do you protect yourself? This is where the bucket strategy comes in, and it's deceptively simple. You divide your retirement portfolio into 3 buckets. Bucket number 1 is your cash reserves. This is 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cold, hard cash or cash equivalents like a high-yield savings account. For our retirees withdrawing $40,000 a year, that's $40,000 to $80,000 sitting in cash. This bucket exists for one reason only, so that when the market crashes in year 1 of your retirement, you do not have to sell stocks at the bottom to pay your bills. Bucket number 2 is your safety bucket. This is 3 to 5 years of expenses in bonds, treasuries, and other relatively stable investments. Think of it as a buffer zone. If bucket 1 runs dry during an extended downturn, you tap this bucket instead of selling your stocks. Between bucket 1 and bucket 2, you now have 4 to 7 years of living expenses that are completely insulated from stock market chaos. Bucket number 3 is your growth engine. This is the rest of your portfolio, invested in stocks and higher growth assets. You don't touch this bucket during market downturns. You let it recover. You let it compound. And when the market has a strong year, you skim some profits off the top to refill buckets 1 and 2. Here's how this plays out in real life. Let's go back to Taylor. Same crash in year 1, same 37% drop, but this time Taylor isn't selling a single stock. Taylor is living off the cash in bucket 1. The market recovers over the next 2 to 3 years. By the time Taylor needs to refill bucket 1, the growth portfolio has already bounced back. The sequence of returns no longer matters because Taylor never locked in those catastrophic losses. The math changes dramatically. Instead of running out of money by 75, Taylor's portfolio survives. Maybe not as strong as Jordan's, but it survives. That's the entire point. Now, if you're watching this and you're 30 or 35 years old, you might be thinking, great, I'll worry about this in 30 years. Please don't wait, because the bucket strategy isn't just a retirement tactic. It's a framework for thinking about risk at every stage of your financial life. The principle is always the same. Never force yourself to sell long-term assets during a short-term crisis. If you're in your 30s, start thinking in terms of your own version of buckets. Build a cash emergency fund that covers 3 to 6 months minimum, so a job loss doesn't force you to raid your investment portfolio. Keep your retirement investments invested, even when the market looks scary. And if you're saving for something within the next 3 to 5 years, like a house down payment, that money should not be in stocks. The sequence of returns trap catches people off guard because most retirement advice focuses on average returns. You've probably heard something like, the stock market returns about 10% a year on average, so just invest and you'll be fine. But averages are liars when sequence matters. If you gain 50% one year and lose 50% the next, your average return is 0. But your actual portfolio is down 25%. That's not a feeling. That's math. Now multiply that effect across a 30-year retirement where you're also withdrawing money every single year. The order of those gains and losses becomes the single biggest variable in whether your money outlasts you or you outlast your money. Let's recap the key takeaways. First, sequence of returns risk is the hidden danger in retirement planning. The first 5 years after you retire are the most critical. A crash during that window can be catastrophic, even if the market eventually recovers. Second, the bucket strategy protects you by creating layers of liquidity. Cash for the short term, bonds for the medium term, stocks for the long term. You never sell growth assets during a crash because you don't have to. Third, this isn't just a retirement concept, it's a mindset. Always have a buffer so you're never forced to sell under pressure. And if you're a millennial with decades until retirement, you have the most powerful asset of all on your side. Time. Time to build those buckets. Time to let compounding work. Time to prepare for the sequence trap that catches most people completely off guard. You don't need to predict when the market will crash. You just need to be structured in a way that it doesn't destroy you when it does. If this was helpful, there's more on the channel. I break down financial concepts like this regularly, without the jargon and without the fluff. Take care of your money, and it'll take care of you.